This is a Life's Better podcast where we say life is so much better with God, community, and purpose. Josh, how do you feel about riddles?
I like riddles.
Do you? Perfect, because I am going to start today's episode with a riddle.
Okay.
Let's see if you can come up with the right answer.
All right.
You can have me, but cannot hold me. Gain me, and quickly lose me. If treated with care, I can be great. And if betrayed, I will break.
I think it helps that I know what our topic is today. I believe the word is trust.
Sociologists refer to the answer to this riddle as the fuel, as the commodity, the resource of life. And the answer is absolutely trust. And so one of the things that I think a lot of times we fail to realize is that trust is required for almost every aspect of our lives.
Yeah, everything.
It's funny because have you ever heard anyone say, yeah, I don't trust anybody? So we say that, but is that even remotely true?
No.
Or even possible?
No.
No, it's not. And so to prove that this is actually just nonsense and to show how we really need to trust almost in every situation, we're going to play a game before we get into the content of trust today. We're going to be talking about just some scenarios that you might find yourself in, and we're going to test each other on how quickly we can come up with at least two reasons why trust or how trust is required in that scenario. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got a little 10-second countdown.
All right.
This might be a little challenging. You don't have to explain, in detail. Just kind of quickly explain. This is where trust would be required in this scenario.
Okay.
All right. You ready for this, Josh?
I'll attempt it. Let's go.
10 seconds. How is eating at or I should say, come up with at least two reasons.
Yes.
Two reasons or two ways that eating at Taco Bell requires trust.
Oh, I have to trust that the food is properly prepared so I don't get sick. I also have to trust that my bank account has money in it.
Very good.
And that they're going to process that,
You had 2 seconds left.
Cool.
You had 2
Awesome.
seconds left. Yes. All right. What's
All right.
mine?
Your first one is a volunteer plans to help at a youth camp.
Okay, trust that they're not a pedophile. Trust that they're going to correctly handle scripture as they're teaching the kids.
Absolutely.
Trust that they aren't going to abuse
but you
anyone.
got two.
Okay, there we go.
Got two.
Okay,
Well
I
done.
got two. I just kept going to see if I could.
I should have stopped it before the music started.
That's
That's
all
my
right.
fault.
That's all right. Okay, here's a situation again you might find yourself in.
Okay.
Two ways, at least two ways, that trust is required to travel by plane to Florida.
Oh man, you got to trust that whoever built that plane is done a good job, and you also have to trust that the pilot takes you to the correct destination.
Very good. And we could probably come up with 40 others.
Oh my goodness, there's so many ways that you have to trust. Man, the physics on that
Yes.
does not make sense to me at all.
It's magic.
Yeah, it's magic.
You gotta
It-
trust
it
that the
is.
magic is actually gonna work. Here you go.
That they've properly fueled the plane with
Uh-huh.
the magic. All right, so this is a group of people
Okay.
meet to play ultimate frisbee.
Okay, trust that they're gonna play by the rules.
Okay.
Trust that the person that manufactured the Frisbee knew what they were doing and it's gonna fly right. Trust that your shoes have been properly tied. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, listen, that was good. The first two, my mind immediately went to you gotta trust that people are gonna show up.
Show up on
and
time.
but
Yep.
you did the actual team stuff, which is
Yeah, that's
good.
where my mind went.
Yeah.
Okay, we're
Just
doing pretty
that
good.
Somebody's not gonna be a jerk whenever you score a point.
You're clearly not playing with me. I'm teasing. Okay, Josh, here's yours.
Okay.
Two ways, at least two ways that trust is required when playing a game. Oh, you know what? This is too similar to yours. This is too similar to yours.
Okay.
You want to try it anyway?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
I'll come up with two different.
This
types
is
of
going to
answers.
be even more of a challenge
Cool.
now.
Let's do it.
Playing a game of basketball.
Ooh. You're gonna trust that your teammates will actually participate with you and play as a team. You're gonna trust that people aren't gonna play dirty.
Dude, you had 1 minute or 1 second. 1 second
1
left.
second left. Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless playing dirty is how you want to play, and then yeah. All right, the last one. This one's maybe a little too easy, but I'm interested to know what your creative answers are.
Wait, did we do 3 or 4? Because I still have one on my list.
Oh, are we supposed to have 4?
We'll end it there. This is the last
Are you sure?
one. No,
'Cause I can come up
here's
with
the
a million.
thing. Here's the thing. We haven't failed yet, so why
Why
tempt
risk
fate,
it?
right?
Yeah. All right. A friend confides in another friend that they aren't. Things aren't going well.
Okay, trust that that's not going to be a secret that they share with other people. Trust that they're going to treat their emotions well and not just, make them feel like a loser.
And that's it.
That's it. We did
You
it.
did it though. That was good.
All right, so hopefully this game has proven, at least on some level, that trust is required for community, right? We talk about how life is so much better with God, community, and purpose. If we're going to be in healthy community, we have to learn to trust people.
Yeah.
And we also have to be trustworthy. I think what's interesting when you look at this dynamic, like God is the only being that is self-sustaining, meaning he doesn't have to go anywhere to sustain himself. You and I, we have to look outside of ourselves for almost all the resources that we need to survive.
Absolutely.
And so in order to survive and survive well, we have to learn how to trust. Now, that being said, there's plenty of times where you trust and then someone hurts you. You put yourself out there and you're betrayed. You were hoping for the product to do one thing and it just caused more damage than good, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens is we pull back. We pull back from people,
Yeah.
we pull back from situations, and that's when we get people who say, oh, I don't trust anyone, can't trust anybody. At the same time, if you head in that direction too far, you end up limiting your life because maybe there were situations, maybe there were people, maybe there were even products that would have been amazing,
Yeah.
but you limited yourself even though you probably could have trusted.
No, that's good.
A lot of the things that we're going to be sharing today actually come from a book that was written by Dr. Henry Cloud. Are you familiar with Henry Cloud? Really famous psychologist, author, even communicator. And he's recently written a book called Trust. And one of the things that he does in this book is he explains 5 foundational ideas, principles for trust to be built. And so we're not going to look at all 5. We're going to look at the first one, and I think arguably maybe the most important. And that first foundational element would be, if you're going to build trust with somebody, you have to build understanding. You have to make sure that the other person understands you and you understand them. Without understanding trust, it's just not going to be built. So I've got a little scenario for you, Josh. I want you to imagine for a moment that you're hanging out in your office, working hard. Guy comes in, and you recognize him, you know him, but you don't know him well. Maybe he's a part of the community, maybe he's a part of the church. And
Happens all the time.
it happens all the time, right? And so he comes in and he says, hey, I don't really know why I'm here. I know I barely know you. I was driving by and I just felt prompted to tell somebody what my plans are. You get a little concerned because that sounds a little ominous. And he explains, my plan is to leave my family. I'm heading home, I'm gonna grab a few things and I'm leaving them. And by the time they get home from work and school, I'll be gone. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there something within you that wants to persuade him to do something else, right?
Yes.
There is a better strategy because you know how much it's going to hurt. I mean, it's going to hurt him in the long run. It's going to hurt the kids. It's going to hurt the wife. Not a good strategy. We want to persuade in that moment. But what Henry explains in his book is that's actually not what that person needs in that moment. They don't need to be persuaded. What they need is for you to understand them. And the idea behind that is most likely he is undergoing that fight, flight, stress, anxiety, hey, work has gotten too much, kids have gotten too much, wife's gotten too much, it's this burden, and I just want to flee.
Yeah.
Now, in order to help him move to prefrontal cortex thinking, problem-solving thinking, not just flight thinking, what we need to do is actually make sure that he knows that we understand. This is actually what Henry says in his book. He says, trust does not begin by convincing someone that you are right or smart or even trustworthy. It begins with helping someone to know that you understand them. So, Josh, let me ask you, who in your life, outside of Emily, that's just too easy.
Okay.
Outside of Emily, who in your life do you think understands you the best? They know maybe in any given situation, like, oh, Josh will probably handle it this way. Josh will probably say this next. Oh, you know what? I bet Josh, they understand kind of your vibe, your values, your thinking. Who do you think understands you the best?
Maybe my dad.
Yeah?
To be honest with you, yeah.
Okay.
I think I would say that.
Now let me ask another question.
Okay.
How much time has your dad over the years spent listening to you? And not just listening like
Yeah.
this is the polite thing to do.
Yeah.
Hey, let me listen before I like throw my 2 cents in because
Yeah.
that's what I really want. How much time do you think he has spent listening to you?
An unthinkable amount of hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is what allows us to actually understand people, actually taking the time to listen to them. And so we're going to be talking with the rest of our time about this secret ingredient when it comes to building understanding and ultimately trust. We have to be willing to take the time to listen to people.
Yeah.
There's a great verse in Proverbs. If you don't want to, or if you don't mind
I
reading it
don't
to
want
us.
to. Yeah. Proverbs 18:13 says, "The one who gives an answer before he listens, this is foolishness and disgrace for him."
Yeah, so the process of learning to understand really begins not by just sharing, but actually listening so that people realize, hey, this person cares. This person is, having those active listening skills.
Yeah.
Maybe I can trust them based on how I'm being understood by them. Now, what we're going to do first, though, is we're going to look at 5 bad habits.
Yeah.
When it comes to listening or maybe not listening.
Yeah.
These 5 are in all of our lives, though.
Yeah. It'll step on your toes.
It's
for
going to
sure.
step on your toes. I would encourage you to try to identify maybe the one that you're like, yeah, I probably do that one more than I should. And just identify that one so that you can kind of start working on it. And then what we'll do is we'll look at 3 healthy habits that you can actually begin to use in your life so that people really do have a sense of understanding and at the same time build that trust that we're talking about. Okay, so number one bad listening habit is disengaging. This is the person who may be staring you right in the face, may even be nodding,
Yep.
but their mind is somewhere completely different. This is the individual that maybe based on the environment around them, they just can't stay focused, right? Maybe the TV is playing, maybe there's kids running around, maybe their phone's blowing up with text, whatever it might be. They just disengage. And typically, let me ask you, can you tell when someone's kind of disengaged from a conversation?
It might not become apparent immediately, but if you ask a question,
Like, wait, what?
or they respond in like a very vague way, it's like
You weren't tracking with
you
me,
didn't
man.
hear anything I just said, did you?
Yeah. So first bad habit would be disengaging, and we've all done it from time to time, but it's a bad habit.
Man, and for me, like this happens especially when I'm in a task, or like I'm at work, or like I'm trying to focus on like the next thing that I have to get done, and somebody's like, "Oh, hey, Josh, like let's meet this person." Like I have to really work hard to like not be thinking about these things because like their name will go in and out, like stuff like that'll happen to me all the time.
Especially if there's a clock ticking somewhere and you have to be
The countdown.
somewhere, right?
The countdown kills me.
No, I'm thinking the exact same thought that you are. It's like I got to be on stage in like 5 minutes, and there's this guest that I really. Oh yeah, it's very difficult.
The second one also steps on my toes. It's being the reassuring type, which this is the person that will not let another person kind of get out any negative emotions. They'll just immediately speak, like, not really even encouragement, but like a sense of, oh, well, you don't need to feel that way, like because. Like as Christians, we can be like, oh, but God is good, and He's got it in His hands. Like, just don't worry about it. Kind of dismissive in a way, but reassuring in a bad way. If that makes sense.
So it's I'm not really listening to your pain. I'm just going to tell you it's going to be okay.
Yeah, and this happens to me especially when I'm in a group setting. Like I'll use youth as an example. If a youth worker is explaining something poorly that happened in their group, my immediate thought is I don't want to even like think that tonight didn't go well, and so I'm gonna be like, oh, but like it went well in every other way, oh, I bet it wasn't as bad as you like immediately like kind of just saying like
It'll be all right.
Yeah, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. When in reality, that person might just be wanting to get that out and needs me to understand like where they're coming from.
Yeah.
But this one's tough.
Number 3, bad habit, maybe you can identify with it, is giving advice. Now, there's not anything necessarily wrong with giving advice, but it's that listener who is just focusing on, hey, let's problem solve this rather than empathizing. And the truth is that in order for someone to open up, brain science actually teaches us that they will not open up until they have that sense of empathy from you.
Yeah.
Empathy is letting them know, hey, I understand what you're feeling, what your emotions are. And so the person who immediately rushes to the, hey, you know what? If you would have said this instead of that, that would have solved your problem. What you need to do next time, it's like, buddy, I actually don't want the advice. I just want to know that you actually understand me.
Yeah.
So that's another bad habit.
Next one is going off on tangents. And this is specifically the type of person that will take the conversation and move it towards something on their agenda or something that they find more interesting. These types of people will also be the type of people who you describe as the one-uppers. Like you'll share something and then they'll share something that is just as bad, if not a little bit more bad, so that you don't worry about your problem. You just help them with whatever they're going through.
Yeah. Have you? I had someone that I used to work with, and she had a reputation so much so of the one-upping that people would make jokes of, hey, why don't you not tell that story to so-and-so? Because, man, if you thought your war story was horrid, man, and it was just like this common thing, like, don't even tell her because she will one-up you every single time. Whether it was good or bad, she would do that. And it is. That would be a horrible reputation to have. And then the fifth bad habit is interrupting. I was tempted to, like, interrupt you at some point just to, like, prove this one, but I just didn't have the guts to do it. But it's the failure. It's the failure to let the other person finish.
Yeah.
What they've found is that the average person will only listen for about 17 seconds before they interrupt. And you know, when you actually start counting, 1, 2, it doesn't sound like once you get to 17, it's like, no, that's an adequate time before I interrupt. But the truth is, if someone is not finished with their thought and isn't finished with, you know, their, agenda, they just feel as though they're not being understood. And that means that maybe you're not trustworthy. And so the walls are going to go up. They're not going to open up their heart to you. So we got to be careful with those bad habits. Josh, as you were looking at those 5, hearing those 5, was there one that you're like, that one's probably mine?
Yeah, I think going off on tangents might be my worst one. Not because I do like stories that don't have anything to do with it, but in my mind, I had a friend tell me this recently, and it was like very serious. Like, let's talk about this because I'm not mad at you, but like you might need to stop doing this. Where I would hear something that somebody's going through, and I would share something similar that I'm going through in an attempt to kind of create this like, hey, like we're going through this together type of thing. But all it did was make them feel like, oh, I can't feel the way I'm feeling about this because you're not feeling this way about this and you're going through it too. And so I had to work on that because while it came from a place of I'm trying to meet you where you are and make you feel like you're not alone, it really was just killing. Like, it almost was like me trying to say, oh, you should be feeling the way I feel right now instead of the way you feel, you know?
You should be processing the way I processed it because this was healthy. And
And I wasn't saying those things. It was just like hey, Josh, you need to maybe be careful with, like, trying to empathize too much.
Sure. No, that makes sense. That's cool. It's nice that you were able to have someone who could even speak that, and then you would even receive that too. Obviously, that's probably a relationship that has built some trust.
Yeah,
in it.
absolutely.
Yeah. I think if I had to identify one, at least as it relates to my boys, you know, not in every relationship or conversation, but probably the interrupting, because I can go into the dad teachable moment type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's you know what, you should probably just, as your dad did so well, just listen and kind of hear the emotions and understand, you know, the context before you just kind of go into teaching mode. And I can just interrupt like, oh yeah, no, I heard you, you know. So that was probably one for me. But let's go ahead and look at the positive habits that we can begin to develop in our communication, our listening skills, so that we can really come across as people who understand and then build trust with folks. So number 1, try to put yourself in the other person's shoes. This is the idea that you put your agenda aside, you set your maybe goals for that specific conversation aside for a moment and really just try to step in and, as we've been talking about, empathize with where that person is coming from. I think another way to look at this, putting yourself in their shoes, is just evaluate, okay, what would I want from a listener? And probably you don't want any of those 5 bad habits.
yeah.
And so you're just kind of doing this quick assessment.
Yeah.
Am I engaging in these bad habits right now? Okay, no, I would want someone to maintain eye contact with me. I'd want them to have active listening with the nodding of the head. So I'm going to go ahead and nod. I wouldn't want someone to interrupt me at this time, and so I'm not going to interrupt them. And so it's just putting yourself in their shoes and kind of doing that evaluation. Hey, am I listening in a way that I would really feel heard and understood? What's another healthy habit?
Yeah, second one is to acknowledge what they've said. And this is the practice that you might have with somebody that you describe as the best listener that you have. They just kind of repeat back to you what you just said in different words to show that they are still following. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be like they're twisting it to like get you towards a certain thought. But in reality, it's just them. It's letting you know, I'm following, I'm here, and I get it. And sometimes I don't know if you're this way. When somebody's doing this well, I hear what they said back, and I don't agree with it, but I know that's what I communicated.
Interesting.
And it's like, oh, now that you say that, I shouldn't feel that way, and I don't agree with what I said to you, but I'm glad that you heard that,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had that moment before.
No, I didn't think about it until you mentioned it, but yes, I have had that experience before.
Like I'll give a quick example.
Sure.
I was with a friend who he was doing a mock, thing for him going into psychology and being a therapist, and he needed people to have mock meetings with.
Yeah.
And so I volunteered because he asked, and we met, and he was like, all right, well, how do you feel about this part of your life right now? And and I started going off about not having enough time to do X, Y, and Z because of things with focusing on my marriage and focusing on my job heavily. And he's like, oh, so it sounds like you're frustrated with your lack of time because you're spending too much time with Emily and your job. And I was like, well, not really. But I'm glad that you heard that, and I'm glad that you are repeating that back to me because that's what I'm communicating, but it's not really how I feel.
Interesting.
Yeah,
so by him mirroring it back, you were able to actually
self-reflect.
Self-reflect on that mirror and go, yeah, no, that's certainly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that's probably not where my heart is and where it certainly shouldn't be, right?
Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Another really healthy habit is find out what is most important. So as you're listening, what you're doing is you're listening for those values. What you're listening for is, okay, is there a fear there? Is there a goal there? And when you hear that, like you mentioned just a second ago, go ahead and see if you're on the same page as them, because this gives them an opportunity, just like you mentioned, to actually say, yes, that's exactly right. And then hey, I'm understanding this person. Or for them to say, you know what, actually, no, that's not what I meant. This is what I'm trying to communicate. And then you can understand them in a more fuller way. An example would be, as your friend kind of used, but I'll go back to the illustration that the guy comes into your office and he's like, hey, I'm leaving my wife and family. And so you listen to him for a little while, and then you reflect back to them, hey, okay, it sounds to me that you really love your family, but you've gotten to a point where you think they're better off without you. And it's that's exactly how I'm feeling. Or, you know what, no, that's not how I'm feeling, it's this. Or, it sounds to me like you want the marriage to work, but you've tried everything and you don't know what else to do. And so you're allowing the listener, the communicator, to really express what's important. And again, it goes back to that reflecting aspect of it.
Yeah.
So these are some of the healthy habits that we can do, but it doesn't matter how great of a listener you are. You won't actually build trust with people if you don't also back it up with action. So I could be a really good listener and I could mirror back to you and I could really understand you, but if I'm not backing it up with, well, let me step in and actually meet some of those needs that you're communicating, that's when that trust gets broken. And so we want to talk really, really quickly about this idea of making sure that we're backing up whatever we're understanding with actions that meet somebody's needs. I'll give an example of this done really well and maybe not done so well. So for the past 2 years, we as a church have gone on CIY Superstarts 4 through 6 conference, and it's just a nice weekend conference. So the first year that we went on it, Joanna reached out to a hotel that was really near the conference center and explained, hey, here's our needs. We need lodging, duh, right? That's what we're calling a hotel. Second, we need food and we need fun. And so she explained a little bit of what that meant, and then they mirrored right back to her, like, what? Okay, so it sounds to me you guys are coming in on a Friday. Okay, that's great. We definitely have lodging for you. What's the size of the group? Okay, you know what we'll do is we'll actually put all the guys in a suite. Yeah, it's gonna cost you more, but it'll save you money in the long run because it has the pull-out beds, and rather than buying a whole nother hotel room, you'll save money with the suite, and then we'll put all the girls in 2 other rooms. Okay, you want food? No, we can definitely accommodate. We'll actually one-up you. You don't even need dinner. So you were thinking about the continental breakfast, but we also have a dinner. You guys show up at 5. Conference doesn't start until 6:30. You get 2 meals.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. And then second was the fun. They had a pool, and we needed a pool because between the morning session on Saturday and the afternoon session, they had this free time. It was like, we need a pool. Their policy was, though, that you have to check out by 11. And so it's like, oh man, we need the pool though. And they said, yeah, you're right. That's what the policy says. But if that's what you're needing, what we're going to do is let you check out at 2. And it was like, okay, awesome. So this year we go to book the same hotel, but we were a little late on the game, and they were already filled up. And so there was another hotel, literally like almost in the exact same parking lot. And we're like, okay, this is good. We'll call them. And they understood. They kind of understood up until the pool, and they were completely unwilling to bend on that 11 o'clock checkout. And it was Joanna, sweet Joanna. As much as she tried to say, hey, we'd love to keep coming back to you guys, but we really need that late checkout, they were unwilling to hear what we needed and bend it. And so we weren't able to get the pool. We got it at night, and it worked out sort of, but the kids were all really tired, and it was just okay. Now, which hotel gained their trust with me?
Absolutely the first one.
The first one, because not only did they hear what we needed, they understood and mirrored back to us what we needed, and then they met every single need that we had, and even went above and beyond. I mean, even when we showed up, like they're passing out, containers of popcorn, and letting us stay up late in their cafe area, making way too much noise. And I mean, just super chill. Like they got us, they understood us, they listened, they understood, and then they backed it up with action. So here's really the challenge, and I'll let Josh have any final thoughts that he wants. Trust is required for almost every area of our lives. What we need to understand is, in order to gain trust with people, we have to be good listeners, and at the same time, whatever we hear, we need to also back it up with helpful actions that continue to communicate that we're trustworthy. Any final thoughts, Josh?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the like what you say. We need to follow up, or sorry, not follow up, but I'm getting to my final thought. Do something in order to communicate trust beyond just listening. I think sometimes what people really need, and what I've needed in the past, is to know that person still thought about it afterward, and to just communicate that like a week later, and to be like, hey, I know we had talked about this. Like, how's that going? And that it's like 2 seconds. But that shows me that they cared beyond just the small interaction that I had with them, and that builds a lot of trust, at least in my opinion.
No, that's good. That's good. All right, well, don't forget, life is so much better with God, community built on trust and purpose. Until next time, enjoy the rest of your month.
See ya.